Our first presenters are AJ Proton. AJ is the co-founder and COO of Project Own. He'll be followed by Aaron Shintaku, who is the COO at Elevate Consulting, and Meredith McAllister, who is a homeownership program manager at Go Northwest and current user of Project Own. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to AJ.
Thanks so much, Ellie, and thanks everybody for joining today. So I'm going to go through these slides super quickly because I want to give plenty of time to Alan and Meredith to talk about the platform, but we can go to the next slide, please. So a little bit about Project Own. We're a 501c3 nonprofit based in Baltimore, Maryland, and we build tech tools to equalize access to homeownership and wealth creation. Next slide. And in 2021 and 2022, we did a pilot program with NHS Baltimore, which is one of the largest providers of HUD certified counseling here in Baltimore. And we were really pleased with the results. So the pilot was testing this idea that you can combine just easy to use digital technology tools with homeownership counseling and financial coaching. And you'll get all of the benefits of working with an expert coach, but things will just happen a little bit more efficiently. Next slide. So we were pleased with the pilot outcomes. We saw solid increases in credit and savings, and critically for our clients, those increases of about 40 points on the credit score and $2,000 on savings pushed them from not being mortgage ready, not being able to qualify for a mortgage, to getting over that hump and being able to qualify for a mortgage and become a homeowner. And so what we saw was out of the 221 clients that participated, about half of them achieved mortgage readiness by the local standards. So that at the time was a 640 credit score, as well as $2,500 in savings. And then of the group that attained mortgage readiness, about half of them achieved home ownership. And so we were really pleased with those outcomes. Next slide. The other thing that we looked at was, again, not just we know that financial coaching and homeownership counseling is effective, but how do we make it a little bit more cost efficient, a little bit more scalable? And so we worked with NHS to do things like provide technology tools for the coaches as well as the consumers themselves. But we also gathered all of the data that we were getting from our tech platform and used that to help NHS improve their systems. And so those things together yielded an increase in the number of people who were able to access financial coaching. Next slide. So after the pilot concluded, we asked ourselves two things. One, how do we take all of these learnings, all the data from the pilot, all the feedback that we got from our users, as well as our financial coaches and intake staff and managers? How do we get better? And how do we make this more widely available, both within Baltimore and nationwide? Next slide. So to do that, we built a new platform sort of from the ground up for the specific purpose of helping facilitate the intake process and getting folks mortgage ready and supporting coaches and counselors and intake staff as they follow up with folks. And so the result of that was the Rooted app, which you can find at rootedapp.org, which is, it's not an app, it's essentially a fancy website that's designed to be really mobile friendly. So next slide. So the two things that the product does, you've got tools for the client, which are sort of, we call them self-serve. So the client can do things that the counselor used to have to do on their behalf. And then the other half of the platform is the coaching sort of back-end dashboard piece where there's a bunch of different tools that we'll walk through. Next slide. So one of the simplest but arguably most important features of the platform is the ability for our clients to pull their own credit reports. And so as they go through this flow, typically on their cell phones, they're going to enter in their own personal information, pay for it using an inline payment system with a credit card or Apple Pay, and pull that report so that when that file gets to the desk of the intake specialist or the counselor or the coach, that report's already pulled. They don't have to worry about collecting payment, collecting receipts, anything like that. Next slide. Another central part of the platform is the ability to link the client's bank account. And so this is going to be similar to if you've ever used like a NerdWallet, Mint.com. It's a secure technology called Plaid that allows the clients to link their bank accounts and input. Currently, we're inputting bank balances. Soon we'll have the ability to input the transactions as well. So it will basically replace um, the need for 2 months of bank statements that I know is a common document requirement. Next slide. I guess one other thing on the previous slide is just that if the clients don't feel comfortable linking their accounts, or maybe they don't even have a bank account, they can always enter in their savings balance that they're using for homeownership manually. So they have both options. But in addition to that, the clients are able to set and track goals against credit score, savings, and then they'll see the progress over those two goals on their dashboards, which are also obviously visible to the counselors and the coaches that they're working with. Next slide. So one of the big learnings from our pilot was email is just getting less and less effective as a mode of communication. And so our partners were asking us, can we build out an easy to use texting solution? And so for rooted clients, it looks like regular SMS texting. You go through your onboarding process, you input all your information, you pull your credit report. But then after that, you never really have to log back in again. You can just manage everything from your texting on your mobile device. And then from the coach's perspective, what's shown on the screen is the digital interface on the desktop. So a coach is doing this from their work computer. They're getting pinged if a client sends them a text and they're the assigned coach or staff member in their email account. And so again, like everyone is already where they would be managing their communications anyway, whether it's texting for the client or email for the coaches. Next slide. So a little bit more on what this looks like from the staff perspective. You can update the client's data on demand. So if they link their bank account, you can pull in the latest balances and soon the latest transactions by just clicking a button. You don't have to reach out to them to request the email in new statements or anything like that. Same thing with the credit score. There's a couple of different options. You can pull their credit report directly yourself if you have their social security number. If you don't want to store that sensitive data, then you can request the client repull their own report. The client will receive a text that directs them to repull their report through the app. And with, again, with the cost of credit reports, we'll talk about that later, but it's up to the partner organization whether the client pays for the report or the organization or some combination of the two. So, one of our partners does, they'll pay for the first report and then the client will pay for the first report, and then the partner will pay for any additional reports, especially for longer term clients. Next slide. So we also have a credit report analysis that happens automatically, really focused on the low-hanging fruit of the credit report. So stuff that you were already going to read through the report to find anyway, like late accounts, high credit utilization. We're just going to automatically pull those to the surface and summarize those for you. Next slide. One of our newest features is document management tool, which one of the biggest things that as I was interviewing our partners and prospective partners, they said that they're wasting a lot of time on converting images taken on their cell phones or the client's cell phones into PDFs. And so what this does is it allows for mobile upload for the clients, but then it will automatically convert those images into a PDF. It'll automatically name them with the appropriate naming convention. And then you can also click in and send the clients text message reminders if they're missing a particular document. So some simple tools there. Next slide. So some things that are coming soon. We're working on some integrations with CMSs, especially those that are on Salesforce platforms. So the first one is probably going to be Homekeeper. But we're interested if you guys have a CMS that you really like, that you think this would add a lot of value to using our product as the sort of intake engine for your CMS, then we're open to building out something for your integration. And the other one I mentioned is this transaction import, which will replace the bank statements and also allow the counselors to do some interesting work with categorizing transactions, tracking how much the clients are actually spending in their monthly budgets versus how much they think they are, which again, these features are all developed by what we watched the clients and the counselors do in a manual way. We just looked at how can we digitalize things, make them a little faster. Next slide. So quick on pricing, the typical pricing is going to be $600 per staff member using the platform. So if you've got an intake specialist, a manager, and two housing counselors, that's going to be four licenses at $600 per year. Credit reports, it's up to you all whether the client pays for those or you pay for them or some mix of the two, but the cost is about $24 for a soft pull tri-merge. Next slide. So we do have some special pricing currently available. The first thing to be aware of is we have a limited number of grant-funded year-long free trials available. So just let us know. We'll circulate a link to reach out to us if you're interested in that. And then, once those run out, we're still going to have a deeply discounted rate for NHRC members, which is going to be $500 flat rate. Doesn't matter how many licenses, anything like that. So it's just the $500 for the full year for your first year, and then whatever credit report setup you want. Next slide. So one last note on the product and the platform. We recently hired two experienced financial coaches with more than 10 years of experience on average each, who are bilingual. They have appointments during the day, during nights and weekends. And really, it's a sort of a plug and play solution. So if your organization does not have the capacity to do the coaching yourself and you want to just outsource the process of getting folks mortgage ready entirely to Project Own, that's an option as well. Next slide. Great. So at this point, I'm going to toss it over to Alan to talk about our data security. And Alan is the COO of Elevate, which is the company that does all of the software engineering for our platform.
Thanks, AJ. Thanks for that intro. Again, I'm Alan, the COO of Elevate Consulting. We're the tech partner for Project Own, developed the application. So just real quick on data security, obviously all this financial data, credit reports, so on and so forth are very critical to the coaching process, but very sensitive as well. And so just want to highlight that, we do have a very large emphasis on data security, starting with end-to-end encryption of all data, includes like at rest and during transmission. We don't store any routing account numbers, payment information, anything like that on the platform. So even in the event of some sort of breach, the malicious actors wouldn't have any access to any of that data. Additionally, we have very strict access controls as far as who can access the data on the platform, and that includes Project Own admins and the development team, making sure that people only access the things they need to effectively. We perform pretty regular vulnerability scans and updates, just making sure that there's no known attack vectors that can be easily patched that are on our platform. And if you want to know a little bit more about the security, there is a one-pager here in the link. I'm sure that'll be posted in the chat or attached in the slides. But let's go ahead and move on to the next slide here. So in addition, AJ touched on this a little bit earlier, but I'm just going to talk briefly about the customization and CMS integration. So we do offer a good amount of customization with partner organizations with regards to the intake modules. Every organization is a little different in terms of what information they're looking for from the prospective clients. And so we do allow partners to kind of change, what questions, what data, so on and so forth that they're gathering. Document management, AJ touched on that as well, but there are options there again to kind of customize the types of documents that your organization is looking for and allow the clients to upload those as well. And there are planned integrations with popular CMSs, including Salesforce, and these will be rolled out as time goes on here and depending on client demand. And the last item is that product development is very heavily influenced by partner feedback. So AJ kind of touched on this earlier, but this is a product that is evolving rapidly, and we have a lot of things on the roadmap. But all of that is very carefully curated based on the feedback from our partners and things that they think are useful or would be useful to add in the platform. One good example of that is the document management that AJ mentioned. That was just something we saw as a potential helpful tool based on how our partners were using the platform. And so we went ahead and implemented that. And so you can expect additional features like that in the future. And I can go ahead and do the next slide. And I think I'll kick it back over to AJ.
Awesome. Thanks, Alan. So just super quickly before we turn it over to Meredith, we currently have about 360 users on the platform, and that's across 3 partners here in Baltimore, all of whom are HUD certified housing counseling agencies. Next slide. So I'll let you guys read this quote on your own time, but the headline is basically that for the intake team at NHS, pulling your own credit reports for the clients is just a huge time saver, which was surprising to us. We didn't think that was going to be a major feature, but they really like it over there. So next slide. Great. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Meredith, who is one of our newest partners, who I think will be able to really speak to why something like this can be helpful to a housing counselor and how she's liked the platform so far. So thanks, Meredith.
Hi. So thank you so much. I'm Meredith McAllister. I'm the Housing Counseling Program Manager at Go Northwest. I have been a HUD-approved housing counselor for quite a while. I've used at least 3 or 4 different client management systems since the sunsetting of HCO. So I have some familiarity with some of the systems. I work for an organization where we have a small staff. We're much smaller than, for instance, NHS, which partnered with them on the pilot. So the appeal to me for the Rooted app was certainly the fact that we don't have a full-time intake specialist. Our counseling staff we answer the phones, we counsel and take our appointments, we do all of our follow-up, we pull credit reports ourselves for our pipeline. And so obviously it would be nice, and we are ever expanding and may come in the future. But what the Rooted app gave us the opportunity was to have a professional onboarding platform that wasn't available through our current client management system. We chose our client management system based on a balance of cost. There are some very robust client management systems. You and I, many of us attended the webinar just a few weeks ago with the different systems that are available, that are already HUD approved, some of them making their place. So many of them have aspects of what you would find in the Rooted app. But I can tell you, upon a quick perusal and talking with some of those systems, the cost of using the Rooted app for that onboarding process and in how it can connect with our client management system, or how we would use it with our client management system, was still much more affordable. So that is one of the major takeaways that I took in deciding whether I immediately wanted to just change my client management system and go through that whole process of migrating a whole client management portfolio to a new platform or not. It just was a headache that I think was better managed for right now with our needs by integrating the Rooted app. Our clients, we haven't been working with Rooted that long, but the clients that I have onboarded through Rooted so far love the app. I mean, like, I have clients who are self-referring their friends without even talking to me again to participate in housing counseling, because all they did was say, hey, go to the app. This is the app. Go in there, do everything. It'll get to her. She'll call you back. And they're referring people. I'm looking at my client management system, realizing that I have not even talked to these clients. So the potential to get clients onboarded through referral process, the process with integrating it into our website, it hasn't even been part of our current system, and we've already gotten many new clients from just other clients referring them because of the ease of the process. The credit report that is pulled is a tri-merge soft pull. And I really like the format of that report. AJ may be able to, I can't even recall what the company is that polls, but what I really loved about it is that, like the report that I pull myself with the contract that I have, it already calculates certain basic pieces of information for you. So I can look at that report without manually having to calculate utilization for the client. When they've provided their documents, we can move through a session with certain basic things. And not only does it keep me from having to calculate those things manually and save time and efficiency, but the clients are able to text you. So I've had clients who are looking at their report immediately. They get it immediately before they've even had their appointment, and they're noticing things because they got that pop-up that gave them a high-level contact. And they can text, and people text, and I get it as an email, so I can quickly say, hey, we're going to go over that during your one-on-one, or I can respond or accordingly. So overall, it provides a level of efficiency that I think helped me make a decision that I don't have to necessarily choose a brand new client management system to get some of these features, which again, for some companies may be offered through the CMS. But for me, the process of taking our whole portfolio to a new client management system just wasn't there. And I'm hoping that as this technology develops out and I connect my current client management system with AJ's team, there may be a way that can directly, that this would be part of that process. But the time that it saves getting clients straight to scheduling an appointment is unfathomable. So hopefully that helps. And if there's anyone who has a specific question or so forth, we will certainly follow up. But I can't rave enough on how good this is. I would say also, when I just heard the presentation, I know probably some people have questions about the working between their coaches and so forth. I know that I have other clients and other funding sources that maybe in the future I might like to use a financial coaching team separate from our HUD approved services and things like that. So I look at it as a way to potentially look for new and different types of funders who may just want the financial coaching piece on its own, not necessarily related to HUD approved housing counseling. So employers or that we already work with for some other activities. And that's everything for me. So I guess we would be going on to next slide or next presentation.
Great. Thank you, Meredith. Yeah, that's all we have. Ellie, defer to you on whether there's any time for questions. But the last thing I'll just say is, we want to hear from you all, whether or not you're ready to try something new. I know that's always a big ask. But feedback from housing counseling agencies is really what drives our product development. So I would really encourage you to either just throw a meeting on my calendar using that Calendly link, or fill out the interest form, and we can reach out to you to set something up. So I know that link wasn't working a little bit earlier in the call. I think we've got it working now, but just let me know if there are any technical difficulties. You can always just send a message in the chat as well.
Thanks, AJ, and everybody from Project Own. There are a lot of questions, but I do want to move on to the next presenter, and we'll do questions at the end. I want to remind everybody, please put your questions in the Q&A box. The chat box is constantly scrolling, and I won't be able to keep track of your questions that are listed there. The only way I'm going to get to your question is if it's in the Q&A box, so please put it there. Even if you've put it in the chat, Many of them are already way gone. So get your question into the Q&A box if you haven't already. And Meredith, you raised your hand. Did you want to say something? No? Okay. Okay. So with that, I want to introduce David Young, who is the Director of Capacity Building at Housing Action Illinois. David's been on a few times. He's a familiar face. So take it away, David.
Thank you, Ellie, and good afternoon to everyone, and happy Halloween. I'm going to make my presentation fairly quickly because I'm hoping to take my son out for to trick or treat later and want to grab as many of the Reese cups that he gets as possible before he gets to eat them. So let me tell you a bit about My Path to Home, what we've created, why we created, and what we're looking to do. So as I said, the program or the platform is called My Path to Home, and it is a client-facing application that is designed to expand access to housing counseling. We came up with My Path to Home after a series of conversations during the pandemic, of which the National Housing Resource Center was a part of. We were looking at wanting to increase home ownership and other housing counseling activities across the board, and trying to figure out what kind of infrastructure would we need to support those increases. Many of you have heard Deputy Assistant Secretary David Berenbaum, the director of the Office of Housing Counseling, say that he would like to, increase the number of households that are served on an annual basis from 1 million households to 3 million households. Well, in order for us to be able to do that, it means that we have to have infrastructure in place to support all of those new people. So that's where we really developed the idea of My Path to Home as a way to increase the visibility of housing counseling organizations and make it possible for clients to sign up for those services. And we developed this in conjunction with Community Ventures Corporation, which are the owners of the Impact Pro client management system. And we also received support from Freddie Mac to do this. Next slide, please. So again, My Path to Home is designed to help people to connect with counseling services, to also automate data entry and act as a referral source for agencies. I think a common thing that we've talked about today is needing the ability for clients to enter that information and have that information then uploaded into a client management system so that housing counseling agencies don't have to spend as much time on intake and can spend more time actually providing direct services to consumers. And that's one of the things that My Path to Home is designed to do, is to not only make it easier to upload that information directly into your client management system without an intake, but also bring clients who might not be familiar with housing counseling to your door. Next slide, please. So how it works is pretty simple. Once the client accesses the website, they can put in their contact and demographic information. And then with that information, we will find the closest housing counseling agency to that individual, and we'll send them the client file. If that agency then accepts that file, then that information is uploaded into their client management system. And then the housing counseling agency would then reach out to the client in order to schedule an appointment. One thing that has been really important in our industry is personalized service. So we felt that once the client's information is uploaded, if the housing counseling agency then has the ability to reach out and schedule that appointment, then that starts to establish that personalized service. Next slide, please. So you can see, looking at this slide, what the customer entry experience looks like. They're putting in their client information. Next slide, please. You can also, as a client, check your availability. So if you are available on a Monday afternoon or a Wednesday morning, you can indicate that at that time so that the housing counseling agency is aware and can make sure to schedule an appointment for you when it is convenient. Next slide, please. So currently, we are in a beta test status, and we have about 21 agencies that are registered covering the Chicago region, Western Indiana, Metro St. Louis, Detroit, and now all of Arizona. And we're actually working to increase geographic coverage and use across client management systems and across the country. And so we are actually able to offer organizations that are interested in trying out the system a free subscription as a part of our beta test. And we are really interested not only in organizations that are using Impact Pro, but are also using other client management systems so that we can make sure that all of this is working really well. Our goal is to launch this as a national product early in 2025. And our other goal is to keep this as a free application for housing counseling agencies. We're looking towards financial institution support as well as support from state housing finance authorities to help cover the cost, which would allow this to be free for housing counseling agencies. Next slide, please. So again, if you're interested in participating in our beta test, you can register to receive clients. There is no cost to participate, and there are no additional marketing or new systems that you have to put in place. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons why we think that My Path to Home is a benefit for you is that it really finds individuals that aren't even aware that housing counseling is available to assist them. So by putting this information online, people find it and then are able to click through directly to the platform, enter their information, and connect with a housing counseling agency. We know that currently, if a person first has an interest in housing counseling and then goes to, for example, the HUD website to enter their zip code and find out what agencies are in their geographic location, that consumer might not necessarily go with the next step of sending an email or reaching out via phone, but are more likely, if they know that they can put information into a system and then have a housing counseling agency contact them, they're more likely to move forward with that activity. I mentioned that we have a number of organizations that have already signed up. We haven't been doing a lot of advertising yet, but we have had about 100 clients that have initiated service requests. One of the housing counseling agencies that we work with is the Center for Changing Lives here in Chicago. And they weren't able to join us today, but they did provide a statement about their experiences over the last couple of months. And so I wanted to make sure that I included that in this discussion. So the Center for Changing Lives experience with My Path to Home has enhanced our agency's visibility and reach, allowing us to connect with a broader audience seeking counseling and support services. Through this initiative, we have established a steady stream of referrals, including growing awareness and interest among consumers in our offerings. However, while visibility and referrals have increased, we have experienced some challenges. For example, in our experience, consumers are primarily looking for one-time technical assistance or specific guidance on isolated issues rather than engaging in our full counseling services. And I think that that is something that we would expect no matter what. Is that even if we were doing all the advertising that we could do, there would still be consumers that would contact us and say, well, if you can't do this one thing for me, then I'm not going to move forward. But for every one of those, we could have 2 or 3 people that do move forward. And that's why we think that having something like My Path to Home is very important. Because if we have more consumers that are coming to us, then there's a greater percentage of people that we can help than, of course, not having any of those consumers coming to us at all. So again, I said with the beta test, there is no cost to participate. You would register to receive clients. We would assign within your organization an administrator. And so once a client is referred to you, that an email would be sent to the administrator, and then it would be up to the administrator to then reach out to that consumer and get them scheduled. There is no additional marketing or any new systems that are required for you to use this platform. Next slide, please. So if you are interested in participating, which I hope that many of you are, you can reach us at info@mypathtohome.org. My colleague, James Miller, who normally would be doing this presentation, but wasn't available because he's actually doing another presentation about My Path to Home to Freddie Mac right now. He would be the best person to contact, and his email address is there at james@housingactionil.org. And also my address, david@housingactionil.org, is there as well. So again, just to finish up, My Path to Home was designed as a way to bring more people to make more people aware of housing counseling, help more people sign up for housing counseling, lessen the burden of intake for housing counseling agencies, and also the need for extensive marketing and outreach in order to bring more people through their door. So again, if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer. Please reach out after this presentation, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, David. And thanks to the Project Own folks as well. And now we're going to get to questions. And there are a lot. So this question kind of came up in a few different ways, a few different times. And this is regarding Project Own. Would that credit report include a tri-merge or just the one credit report? And does it include scores? And there's a lot of questions about, will it integrate with the software I already use for my credit report? So just some conversation and some more information about how the credit report works in the platform.
Yeah, absolutely. So firstly, the type of credit report that we do, it's a soft pull tri-merge with scoring. The particulars of the scoring models are going to be contained within the slide deck if you need those as well. And then in terms of, how can we integrate this with, like, we already use CoreLogic or some other system to pull our credit reports, I'd say a few different things. The first is if you decide, like, listen, I like our current vendor, I like their pricing, I like the way their reports are formatted, you can just keep using those reports. And what you can do is turn off the credit pulling module for Project Own in the rooted platform and just use the other parts of the platform that might be more useful to you, like the texting or the savings features. If it gets to the point where we've got a lot of folks who are telling us, like, it would be really helpful if we could have, this specific vendor, call it CoreLogic, also as an option to pull credit reports through the rooted platform, because the big advantage of doing it through our platform is you get the automated analysis, the clients get it right away, and those are some things that you wouldn't have access to if you just turned it off and used your own thing. And so anyway, if there was a critical mass of organizations who wanted us to explore another vendor, then we could talk about that with Alan as well and see if there's, the right technology to get that in through the right format.
So I'll put a plug in right away for CoreLogic, Credco, because we have a relationship with them to get discounts for housing counseling agencies. So all of our members, most of our members take advantage of that. So it would be great if that was integrated.
Yeah, maybe we can follow up about that, Ellie.
Okay, great.
Cool.
Great. And I do want to take the facilitator opportunity to ask a question that nobody else has asked, but I just want to be clear that you are now rolling this out nationwide. Are there any limits to where you're rolling this out? Like, are there places where if an organization reached out to you to say that they wanted it, that you might be holding off on that area?
Nope. I think, one of the good things about the space that we're in is while there are many, many differences in housing markets between geographies, the process that you need to go through to improve your credit and to save money is relatively consistent. And so we're open to anywhere that thinks this would make their life a little bit easier for intake and mortgage readiness counseling.
Great. Just wanted to be sure we were all clear on that.
Yep.
Thank you. So a little bit more on the credit pulls. This person asked, can we use our own credit pulls? Do they integrate with and does it integrate with another CMS platform or any other CMS platform?
So I think in terms of can we use our own credit pools, I think that's going to be the same response I just gave about you can either just turn it off and use your own credit pools, or we can work together to see if there's a solution there, but it's not going to be out of the box. In terms of CMS integrations, I think this is something I saw across a bunch of the questions. So one thing to be really clear about is Project Own is not a CMS. We are not competing with Compass and Counselor Max and Homekeeper and all these systems. What we're meant to be is like a really easy to use consumer facing tool that you layer on top of your existing CMS. So that's why we're going to build the integrations with all of those different systems. Because what we want you to do is use our system to get your clients in the door and to support them and to follow up with them. But in terms of reporting to HUD and record keeping and doing all that stuff you're already doing with your CMS, we want you to keep doing it because to Meredith's point, it is a huge pain in the butt to switch from one CMS to another, which is why we made the choice to not build a competing CMS.
Okay. Meredith, did you want to say something? You're muted.
Okay. I was going to say that one of the things is just clarified, it wasn't a CMS and we don't use it for that purpose. And initially, my big question was whether or not it really did save time if it didn't directly put the information into your client management system. And this is what I found even just in the short amount of time we've already been using this. If you do not have a forward-facing client module in your current CMS, this will be life-changing. If your CMS already allows clients to put their information into it and it's going directly in, that's fine. If you're using a paper intake form and then putting it into your CMS, you're not spending any more time. This is not causing you any more time consumption than if you were looking at a paper intake form after the fact. What this does is gives you an almost instant engagement with the client. And that credit report is that pull that keeps them motivated to upload the 900 documents that we ask them. That sometimes when we've just talked to them nicely and said, hey, we're going to help you, and they see on their credit report and they realize maybe I'm not mortgage ready because maybe they already sat through a class and they know they don't have the minimum scores or their debt load is off. That's what the process from putting their information, and we kept ours simple. We didn't put our whole intake process because we do that with them. at some point in our disclosures. But we kept it very simple as what AJ's team already put in it. They can complete that process in less than 2 minutes with their phone and start their credit pull. They sometimes clients don't want to go through telling me every single thing about their demographic and their family. They just don't have enough personal motivation. And that's where it has saved a lot of time, and it has converted those clients who were only mediocrely invested in starting the long-term process with actually becoming a client and setting an appointment without me having to chase them down to convert them.
That is quite the recommendation right there. Thank you, Meredith. So is there a reporting component where housing counselors can track the client's progress with data points like credit, savings, and debt? So this is the reporting component.
Yeah, so what it currently looks like is there's, for the sort of staff point of view within the website, there's going to be a table for your credit history and your savings history. And so every time you pull a credit report or every time you update the savings balance, it's going to be a new entry in the table. And so you can see how the client's finances have changed over time. And that was really designed to mimic the reporting that you need to do for financial capability clients and long-term mortgage ready clients in particular. Eventually, so right now you would look at that information on our app and input it into whatever system you're doing your reporting from. What we're hoping to move quickly towards within the next 6 months to a year is that automated integration where the information is automatically going to flow into your CMS in the exact right format that you need it in, so that reporting is seamless.
Great. One of the things that it seems like to me, and you can comment more on this, AJ, if you'd like, but it sounds like you all are very open to making changes based on what you hear from the housing counseling agencies as to what their needs are and what barriers they're trying to overcome using the app.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I say that like everything that you saw on the screen today is a result of during our pilot program, me sitting in on counseling sessions, talking to intake specialists, literally watching them do their jobs, and then pulling out what are the 2 or 3 things that we can just take care of in an automated or a digital way. Like everything that we're doing is just something that the counselors are already doing, and we just want to take it off their plate, make it a little bit easier. And I think one of the things that I was concerned about, the luxury of working with someone like Alan is we can engineer essentially whatever we want on the platform. You're not limited like, if you're on Salesforce, you have to stay sort of within their boxes of what you do with the software. We can really customize anything. And so you have to be careful not to build, if you've got 100 partners, you don't want to have 100 different sales or software platforms. But as I talked to dozens of different agencies around the country, it turned out that like, again, while the geographies are different, this particular aspect of the work, which is getting folks in the door, getting them mortgage ready, and then following up with them, very consistent across many different places, different sizes of organizations. And so, I mean, the best example of that recently is this PDF feature for document management. Like I talked to like 36 people who said, gosh, why don't these documents come through as PDFs? I need them as PDFs for my system. I mean, someone literally told me they spend an hour a day converting cell phone pictures into PDFs. It's like, that's an hour they could be counseling folks. And so we're just trying to solve problems like that and be super responsive to what the counselors and the staff are telling us.
Great. Can you schedule classes on the platform?
Not currently, but that's actually, so as we start getting into the integrations with the CMSs, I think that's going to be one of the most requested features. Like with Homekeeper, for example, they have really, really robust features for the CMS reporting side of things. And one of the things that a lot of the Homekeeper partners are interested in is the ability for customers to schedule classes, reschedule classes, modify their appointments, and just sort of handle some of those administrative tasks under their own power. And I suspect that a strong number of other CMSs could really use that feature as well, where a client can just get on their cell phone, schedule a class, cancel it, without having to call someone and tie up a phone line.
Great. Is there a way to send out a general text message to clients?
Not currently. Actually, let's follow up with Alan on that question because I'm pretty sure you can, but I just want to confirm that's possible with our current text messaging provider.
Okay.
So maybe we can send out an email about that.
Yeah. Just let me know what you find out, and we'll include it in the email that goes out with the recording.
Great.
For HUD PHFA, we must collect about 47 different pieces of demographic info plus a bunch of docs. I like the summarization. Just a comment. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
So you've already answered that question about whether or not Project Own is a certified CMS. You are not a CMS. Let's see. Somebody says, Go Northwest sounds like us. We have 2 counselors and 1 intake person. RX doesn't have text capabilities. Let's see. Okay, so this is kind of CMS questions, but so you're not reporting to the 9902 or any of that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And does the soft pull that you do have credit scores attached?
Yes, and the specific scoring models are going to be within the slides that get sent out today.
Okay.
Mhm.
Does the texting feature automatically turn into notes that show up on the 9902? And no, because you're not connected to 9902, correct?
Correct, but one of the things that a few of our partners have asked about is creating sort of a log notes from the text messages that could then be sent over, whether manually or via an integration to your reporting system.
And I'll just note that Meredith is nodding her head vigorously to that answer from AJ. So I just want everybody to know that she completely agrees with that. And this is for Meredith specifically, this question. What about clients who are not tech savvy? How much time is spent training the clients on how to use the Rooted app?
So the Rooted app doesn't require as very much training. Actually, my non-tech savvy, a couple of my senior clients were able to get through this and weren't able to get through my intake before because they were not the pictures that you get when they just take a picture of their document, if they know, how to do that, were just not readable. And so the conversion, I had worked, literally, I told AJ, I had figured out how to use Adobe, Dropbox, and a couple of other to create this workflow with 3 or 4 different apps. And that's what I was doing to help. But the process, if they at least have command of their phone and how to take a picture and know how to send a text message, that's basically it. Some of them don't even realize they have email on their phone, even though we know if they have an Android, for instance, they have a Gmail account. They don't necessarily know how to then take a picture, open up an email, attach the picture to the email. If they do, it's going to be a photograph instead of a PDF. So this really, really eliminates that. So I literally had a client who we've been struggling, and I was just going to let them come in face to face and scan their documents. But I sent them this and said, do this and take the pictures of the app, and it'll send it to me. Next day, I had everything.
Great. Miss Ivy, I have a couple of questions for you. Somebody would like you to repeat the HUD certification training information, and somebody else wanted you to repeat the cost of the HUD certification training.
Yeah, of course. So we have our final training of the year, which will be on November 4th and it ends on November 15th. It is Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern time, and the cost is $200. And I will also put the link in the chat so you can go directly to the trainer's website.
Thank you, Miss Ivy. And I know you put this in the chat, Meredith, but if you could say out loud what client management system you're using.
I'm currently with Go Northwest using Impact Pro, but I have also used RX Office um, in the last year with another organization. And so I would have made the same decision, especially then.
Okay, there's a question here that I believe is for David. Because of the timing of the question. How do you collect all the required initial documents, pay stubs, bank statements, et cetera, before the counseling session?
Well, so the way that we have designed this system is we are really looking to help get more clients to your door. So most of housing counseling agencies already have a system in place for how they want to collect documents, whether that's uploading that information into their consumer-facing client management system or in another way. So people can still do that the way that they currently do it. Our goal with this system is to help more people find you, get them to your door, get them into an appointment without you having to do more marketing and outreach, as well as intake to get them into your client management system.
And then are we able to use My Path to Home as an intake option for our own outreach if we join the beta test?
Yes.
And so how do they join the beta test? Do they just reach out to you, David, or reach out
They can
to
just reach out to James
James?
at james@housingactionil.org, or you can reach out to me at david@housingactionil.org. We're happy to give you more information. And also, if you're interested in signing up, we can get you signed up so that you can start using the system very quickly.
Okay, if we receive referrals through My Path to Home, is there an option to limit the number of referrals received?
Yes. So when you receive a notification that you have an incoming client, you have the opportunity of reviewing that information and either accepting or declining. If your agency declines that client, then that information comes back to My Path to Home, and we will reassign them to another housing counseling agency.
Okay. How are clients finding My Path to Home? What marketing or outreach efforts are driving them to the platform? We are in a rural area, so I'm curious, how would they know about the platform?
Sure. So right now, our advertising has been pretty limited, but we are going to be increasing the amount of advertising that we're doing, especially as we look to roll this out nationally this year or early next year. One of the things that we have started to do, which is very beneficial, is we are asking for partner organizations that don't necessarily do housing counseling to add this to their websites. And then that way, consumers that are interested can click through and it will take them right to My Path to Home so that they can sign up. We're also looking to take advantage of search engine optimization to make sure that My Path to Home is coming up when people are putting in certain keywords or certain terms that indicate that they might be interested in talking to a housing counselor.
Okay. How is My Path to Home an add-on to Impact Pro and has to I'm not sure. Okay. My Path to Home is an add-on to Impact Pro and has to work with Impact Pro.
So My Path to Home was designed with Impact Pro, but it works with all of the client management systems. So if you have Impact Pro, it will enter that information directly into Impact Pro. If you're using another client management system, you'll get that information in a CSV file, which is easily uploaded into your client management system. And all of the client management systems have the ability to do that upload. upload. So again, even with doing a CSV file, it's much easier than having to enter all of that information manually into a client management system. And I had mentioned earlier that we are really interested in having more organizations that are using other client management systems other than Impact Pro to participate in this beta test. And one reason for that is that as more organizations are using it, we believe that client management systems will develop APIs to make it easier to integrate that information without having to do a CSV file upload.
Okay, let's see. Oh, so we have a housing counselor who says, yes, CoreLogic Crecco. Just another vote for that, AJ. Okay, we use SharePoint to store each client's docs. We use Excel for client tracking data collection. We use Impact Pro to report sessions, case notes to report 9902 outcomes, and keep track of time. Is this too much or pretty standard for this field? I wish there was one portal for 9902 reporting, hub for all client data and docs. I'll let the panelists answer as well, but I will tell you, we hear about this often, that there's multiple places where housing counselors have to put information that can be time consuming administratively. But David, AJ, Meredith, go ahead if you want to also chime in on that.
Well, I would say I think that there are, I did see that question, and I think that there are ways that you can keep all of that information within your client management system. Now, it's difficult, of course, depending on which funding source you have, because there are funding sources that might require data being input into one of their proprietary systems. Which means that you still have to be able to put data in that place to satisfy that particular funder. But based on the question that was asked in the Q&A, it sounds like that if you were in touch with your CMS developer, that they could help you to integrate most of those into one client management system so that it will be much easier on your staff intake-wise.
Okay. Okay, so this is a Project Own question. Can Project Own do housing ratio, DTI, and budgeting?
So clearly we're collecting income as well as the debt comes through on the credit report. And so we could definitely do a calculation of DTI in app. And then in terms of budgeting, that's going to come into play as soon as we get the transaction level data to be imported. I think broadly what that's going to look like is the client will fill out a proposed monthly budget of where they think they're spending their money, and then they will import their transactions, categorize them, and see, oh, actually, I'm spending $400 a month on DoorDash. A common thing that we saw during our pilot. I mean, maybe not $400, but that was one common constructive criticism from the financial coaches is cut down on the eating out and the Amazon Prime deliveries. But yeah, so that one's coming soon.
So this question, I'm not sure if it's specifically for My Path to Home or Project Own, but I suppose both of you could answer this question. Can you include standard forms that need to be read and signed? Can the app present those documents and request an e-signature? So David, you go first.
Sure. We haven't built that into the system yet, but as more people use the system, we would like to be able to do that.
And AJ?
Yep, I think same for us.
Okay.
So, Ellie?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, it's Meredith. I went off camera.
That's right.
What I can tell you that I've been doing, as AJ's still building out, we have our client disclosure package as a fillable form hosted by Adobe now. What AJ did say, and when I had my onboarding, I haven't asked for it yet, but I forgot, but I was told it was technically possible to have the link to that form sent to the client as an automatic step at some point or so forth. But for me, when I respond to them via text message, I have a bit.ly link that's really short. And so when I get the credit report and it shows that they've completed that, I introduce myself really quickly. I say, "Hi, this is Meredith. I'm your counselor. And the next step for you is to read and sign our disclosures. And here's my calendar." And they do those two steps. So I send it as a text now. I was told it could very easily be sent some kind of way or be available some kind of way when we were doing our tech. Is that right, AJ?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a common solution where if you've got any sort of online forms outside of the project owned system that you need to get to your clients, I mean, today you're able to do what Meredith is doing and text that information via the project owned platform. And then if it ends up being like you're doing the same form texted to every single client, then let's automate that. And that's certainly possible as well.
So how do housing counseling staff know when a client sends a message? Do they receive an email notification?
Yes, email notification will come through to whichever staff members are assigned to that client. So sometimes you'll have multiple staff members, maybe an intake specialist as well as the counselor, both assigned, and they'll both get an email when a text comes through.
Who owns the data that is inputted into your system?
Yeah, so the short answer is Project Own does. For a slightly longer answer, I would encourage you to visit the Project Own privacy policy. If you go to projectown.org/privacy, you can check that out. And if you have more particular questions about that, our general counsel's actually on the call as well, Ben Harris, and so we can put you in touch with Ben to get into the details of that.
Is there an additional fee for the SMS text or a limit to the number of texts?
Nope, it's just pretty plug and play. You send texts currently mostly manually. There is an automated sort of welcome text that everyone gets. So it just says like as soon as you create your account, the client receives a text that says, "Welcome to the platform, text this number," and a real person is going to reply in the next, I think, 2 days or so. And then you're free to do as much back and forth via the texting as you want.
Let's see. Are we able to currently download this app? I'm assuming they're talking about Project Own to see what it would look like from the client perspective, but I don't know. I mean, I guess it could be either one.
I'm happy to go first. So you can, if you go to rootedapp.org, you're more than welcome to create your own account. The only challenge with that is, obviously a core part of the process here is pulling your credit report. And so you're not going to get very far without paying for a credit report and pulling it. And obviously you may or may not be comfortable with that. So there's two other options. The first and simplest one is we've got what's called a clickable demo, which isn't the actual app, but it's basically a simulator of the app. And so you can click through and just get a general feel for what this is going to look like for your clients. If you want to go a little bit more in depth than that, we do have a demo version of our app that is like actually going to perform quite similarly to the product. The only challenge with that is it's just a little bit more involved. So you would need to set aside like probably a half an hour to an hour to, you put in fake credentials and you pull a fake credit report. And if you just want to click through something, I would say go for the clickable demo. If you really want to get into the weeds, then reach out to me and we can set you up with the sort of full demonstration of the product.
Okay. Oh, same question that I asked AJ. David, is My Path to Home open to all states?
Yes, it's open to all states. And then I think also the previous question might have been posed to me as well. If you go to mypathtohome.org, you can see all of the information that the consumer sees, including if you click through, you can see the page that the consumer is entering their information in order to request a service.
Okay. All right. Our process in place requires a pre-screening for services. For example, we do not offer financial assistance, so our intake specialist's first step is to screen and triage every caller. Those who do not meet the service requirements are referred to the appropriate service. How does this application pre-screen callers, users? So I would say, again, both platforms should answer this question. And David, you're already off mute, so you go first.
Sure. So so again, My Path to Home is designed to bring more people to your door. So once they come to your door requesting services, you'll still need to use your processes for however you do that. So it just means that you would have more people coming to your door for services. And so then you would still want to do that same screening once that person requested services to determine if that is a service that you could provide or not.
Okay, AJ, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I would just say one of the advantages of our platform is the clients are going to immediately pull their own credit report. And so you can automatically place them on the right track. Like, our first partner in Baltimore had one track for people who were not mortgage ready and another track for folks who were already mortgage ready. And a lot of the times people were getting false starts and going into the wrong track and then getting reassigned. And it was just kind of inefficient. And so pulling the credit right at the top of the process can help with that a little bit. The other thing I would just flag that's related here is, I think the person that asked the question mentioned that their organization doesn't provide financial coaching or financial assistance. And that's the perfect use case for using Project Own's internal coaches. Like if your organization doesn't have the capacity to do financial coaching for folks who are longer term, then just refer those folks to Project Own. And as soon as they are eligible for your programs, we'll put them right back in your pipeline for pre-purchase or whatever program that you're currently operating. Meredith, did you have anything to add to that particular one?
So, same thing, with our program for homeowner, we do comprehensive housing counseling. So we do default counseling and everything. We primarily right now see this as an opportunity for our clients that are just home ownership, being able to decipher between our home buyers club model, which is a long term, meaning the credit report tells us they have barriers that are going to make them 180 days or more before they can be credit ready, mortgage ready rather. And so we use that, but our primary, it doesn't take the place of if they're calling for eviction prevention and they just want rent, it's not going to replace that piece. So the assumption is they have already been screened that they at least want home ownership before they're referred into anything with the rooted app.
Okay. All right, David, this is a question for you that we already asked Project Own. Does the platform do budget tracking, income, savings, debt to income ratios?
It doesn't, because that's not what the platform is designed to do. Again, the platform is designed to bring people to your door so that you can then provide the great services that you do. That has been really our goal with creating My Path to Home, was to make sure that we could get more people aware of your services and reaching out to you in order to get your services. Now with, I think that, this can work in conjunction with Project Own. It can work in conjunction with some of the other consumer-facing pieces that are part of client management systems. But again, we're not looking at My Path to Home, or I don't think any of us that are on this call today are saying that this is going to answer every one of your needs. We're going to be able to do everything that you need. because there's just not an application that's been created yet to do that. And once there is, I'm going to be really scared for humanity's sake of that application. But this system is really designed to help bring people to your door.
David, this is for you again. Is Puerto Rico included in the promo so that customers can look for the housing counseling agencies there or be referred to them?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I think, AJ, this is for you. What is your fee to utilize your financial coaches?
Yeah, so short answer is we're still figuring it out, but the way that we're going to do that is by offering a 6-month free trial to anyone who wants to work with us on that. Um, I think to give a general sense, it's it's going to be quite affordable, and it's going to be really affordable if you compare it to the cost of actually hiring and training a financial coach on staff, because you can pay for the cost of financially coaching one person or 5 people or 10 people. It's just we're going to charge you based on your usage. The only reason we don't have pricing yet is because we need to figure out exactly how much it costs us to pay the financial coaches. And it's going to depend on how much, like how long people are staying in coaching, how many appointments they're making, this and that. The other thing that actually came up recently is if an organization was interested in passing the cost of coaching on to the consumer, that could be something to explore as well. So, like, for example, let's say it costs $75 per month to get a financial coach for one of your clients. If you wanted to charge some or all of that cost to the consumer, I can't commit to that being a possibility just because we have to think about how that aligns with our mission and making sure that this is really breaking down barriers and not erecting new ones. But that would be something we would be open to having a conversation about as well.
All right, so I thought that this question had been answered already, but it keeps popping in, so I'm going to ask it. And this is to you, David. How would an agency start the process of using My Path to Home? We currently use CMAX, which I feel is so outdated.
Sure. So in order to use My Path to Home as part of our beta test, you would just need to reach out to us. You can either reach out to my colleague James Miller at james@housingactionil.org, or to me, David Young, at david@housingactionil.org, and we can get you signed up.
Is My Path to Home a CMS option?
My Path to Home is not a client management system. It is a platform designed to work with client management systems to help it to make it easier for you to import new clients into your client management systems without having to do manual intake.
Let's see. Are the financial coaches / counselors from Rooted HUD certified? Or I should say, will they be?
Yeah, maybe we can get them in the HUD certification pipeline you guys have. I'm not sure off the top of my head. I know that they are AFC certified, but I would say even if they are HUD certified, they are not going to be doing the HUD certified housing counseling pre-purchase pathway with the clients. How it would work is you would get a client, realize that they're not mortgage ready, refer them to the Rooted platform. Rooted's going to get the client mortgage ready, and then that client will re-enter your pipeline for your mortgage readiness or for your pre-purchase pathway. Meredith, do you want to just speak to like what that might look like for you guys because you're considering using that service as well?
Right. So to be Rooted is not a HUD approved agent. I mean, well, AJ's company is not a HUD approved agency. So even if, for instance, I was a counselor there, I wouldn't be acting as a HUD approved counselor doing financial coaching for them. But what we do have is we have other sources. We have employers, for instance, that are willing to invest a certain amount. And as AJ's figuring out the pricing, we're figuring out the pricing to invest in their employees to pay for this type of budget and mortgage coaching because they want their employees to buy houses around where they work. So we are looking at ways for that. And so with that, what it would be is that this assessment would then potentially put them over with AJ's firm, because I don't have the capacity necessarily to have 100 long-term clients. We do about 50 a year. That's all between two people we can get done mostly, and several of those fall out. But what we see is that we potentially could send them there for a separate service that's not a HUD approved service, and then they come back and enter as our fast track program, where they just need their 8-hour homebuyer class and a certificate.
So I just want to, I think what I'm hearing here is that it is an option that will be available, but it is not required that you send your clients to this financial counseling. It is just an option that will be available to you to help save you time if you are, like Meredith said, seeing way too many people and you need them to get some things taken care of first before they come to you. Does that sound like an accurate description? Meredith is shaking her head vigorously, but AJ, go ahead.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So you have three different options to work with Project Own. The first is you simply license our software and use the platform with your existing team of counselors, coaches, and intake. The second option is you maybe don't have that team on staff, and so you want to outsource everything to Project Own. You could be a small nonprofit, you could be a real estate developer or a lender, and you just want to give people, go to rootedapp.org, go get mortgage ready, and then let's reconvene once you're mortgage ready. So that's the second option, is outsourcing everything to us. And then there's the hybrid option, which is like, let's say you're an organization that's got two financial coaches, but they're already at capacity and you want to add a little bit of additional capacity. You could both license the platform to use with your own coaches and also use the Project Own coaches as flex capacity or overflow capacity for those clients that are currently sort of occupying your wait list.
Great. And AJ, when you have job openings, make sure you put them on our job board.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
and search our resumes too.
Yeah, no, one of the things that we're already sort of peeking around the corner at is there are so many people who, with just a little bit of financial coaching, could get mortgage ready and buy a house. And, there just aren't enough financial coaches nationwide to serve them. And so the more that we can connect the dots between these customers, financial coaches, people who might be interested in becoming a financial coach, and sometimes that's former customers, right? And so I think that there's a nice synergy of serving these people and just growing the apparatus that supports equitable home ownership and wealth creation.
Great. Well, that is the end of our questions. I want to say a hearty thank you to all of our panelists. This was really great. And I also want to say thank you to our attendees for all the really wonderful questions. Always our attendees have great questions, things that I wouldn't even think of. So thank you again to our attendees. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Bruce to close us out. Oh.
So, I just happy Halloween, everybody. And so big thing is we'd love you guys to join. If your organization hasn't joined already, please do. We need the support, and it gives us the flexibility to do the kind of things that aren't normally easily funded by the world of funding. It allows us to be lobbyists and advocate for legislation and maybe take some controversial stands vis-a-vis the funding community. So, we value our independence, and it really depends on, we are a housing counseling supported organization, housing counseling agency supported organization. As we've mentioned, there's a number of discounts that give value to you. And we love helping saving you some money on these programs, and we're trying to explore some more as well. But the real reason is to support the work and the fact that we will continue trying to figure out things that make housing counseling more sustainable, like the home energy providers and some of the Section 8 work, which we hope will make your work easier, more effective. So please consider joining, and hopefully you got we're putting the links into the chat so that you can go straight to it. It is a membership organization for your agency rather than individual. We do take donations now, so that's a win as well. And we are going to continue doing plenty of interesting things. So there's the solar scams one with the Center for Responsible Lending. This will be excellent. I mean, they are the top flight organization doing this kind of work. We have a strong relationship with them, reaching back to the predatory lending and foreclosure fighting days. And you'll get a lot out of it, and it'll be valuable, especially if you want to move into the energy field. We've talked about the AmeriCorps work, and that's a great opportunity to add to your staff. I'm surprised that there aren't more agencies jumping all over this, so take advantage of it this year. There's room for you, and some agencies are now taking 2 positions. There's our friends at HIA have really kind of figured out how to do this, and AmeriCorps is a hard animal to manage, and they have mastered it. So this is a great opportunity. I'm very excited about Smart Home America. They are a nonprofit, but they are about improving building codes, about fortifying roofs. There's a lot to learn from them. It was quite an eye-opening session that they did just with us, with Ellie and me, while we were consulting with them. We got the reference through the Habitat for Humanity group that are building housing, and they use those as their standards so that they're storm and disaster resilient. And there's a number of discounts in different states for bringing buildings up to the speed this way. We do need to know much more about this in the industry. This will be a component in the home energy advisor piece, but I think it's, whether you go into that direction or not, it's valuable to know what's available. Ellie and the team are working on plenty of other possible webinars coming up. We might squeeze in one this year. I don't know. Might be at our maximum, but definitely early next year there'll be more coming. Again, please join and help us keep our work going like this. It's been a financially tough time for us. But with that, big thanks to all the presenters and the good work they're doing, and big thanks to you for all the good work you're doing out in the field. We want to help you do it and do it longer and better. Thanks. Bye.